Hey, hey, mamas. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I am so glad you're here with us. My name is Marissa Lonick. I am the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of mom life and work life and wife life and fill in the blank life. And I am so excited you're here today because we have a very special guest. Her name is Susanna Peace Lovell. Susanna received her BA from UC Berkeley, and she is the author, speaker, and disability rights advocate, as well as a professional certified life coach dedicated to the health and wellness of disability families everywhere. This is also Susanna's lived experience as she's raising a teenage daughter with a myriad of disabilities and diagnoses, including ASD, autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, anxiety, and severe food allergies. Susanna advocates for disability families by assisting them in creating whole life balance, resulting in decreased stress and worry with an increase in joy and purpose. She also assists families in accessing services and funding through channels such as regional center funding, IEP support, educational funding in public school districts, SDP, which is self determination program, IHSS, in home support services, and more. As a speaker and consultant, Susanna works with groups and companies to teach about disability awareness, equity, and inclusion. She educates and trains clients regarding best practices for employing and supporting individuals with disabilities and their families. I just know Susanna is going to share so much wisdom and guidance with us today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Marissa. I love that sounds so amazing. What you just what you just read. I sound so amazing. Thank you for
You
that.
are amazing.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. I love the reminders. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Me too. Well, I always love to ask guests, just first and foremost, like, tell us a little bit about your journey and what got you here.
Yeah, so I like to sort of start off by saying that, I was always obsessed with becoming a mother. So from my earliest memory, maybe I was 2 or 3, I was always carrying around a doll or a stuffed animal because, these were my babies. They were all sentient, of course. They all had names and personalities and challenges and behaviors and had time out and got in trouble. And I fed them and changed their diapers, all of that. So I was really, really like, no matter what career path, I take, I for sure am going to be a mother. So that was just something that stayed very consistent throughout my entire childhood, young adulthood. Nothing ever shifted. Never. So I was very clear about that part of my life. And so I was so excited to, I had this vision of motherhood that I think most of us do before we actually become mothers. And I just was like, I'm going to have 4 kids or 5 kids, either or. I come from a big family. I'm one of 5. And that's just going to be, a very big part of my life. And so I, met my husband at the time years ago, and we dated for like 3 years, and then we ended up getting married. And 3 months later, I was pregnant, and it was just like, okay, my little plan is working, and everything is going smoothly. And then our daughter, the pregnancy was, not ideal. I was very nauseous most of the time and never felt comfortable, but whatever. There was an end in sight to that for sure. The baby's going to be born, and hopefully everything would be fine with that. And she was born, 41 weeks later. And my daughter, whose name is Arizona, it was just, sort of a presence right away, like as soon as she was born, like this big presence. And to me, I was like, wow, it just seems like she's really like, I'm here, like commanding so much attention. So anyway, fast forward over the next couple of years, because I could talk about this for hours and I don't want to do that today. So I will say that, every step of motherhood for me was an unexpected turn to the left when I had this idea that I was just going straight forward. Or if I thought I was going over there to the right, it was like 2 steps to the left and 5 steps back. I mean, nothing was ever as I thought it was going to be. Every tiny little bit of motherhood for me was just, again, like unexpected. And so the journey started off with realizing initially that Arizona had so many allergies, so many food allergies. That took almost a year and a half to actually know for sure all of the, various allergies and symptoms, and, everything was very, very challenging because there were a lot of episodes that were nearly life threatening and very, very scary at the time. During that time, she was, head to toe covered in eczema. She wasn't able to really enjoy much of life, nor was I, because she was suffering so immensely and she was in so much discomfort. And when she finally, we sort of had a handle on the allergies, the eczema started, leaving her body slowly. I was like, okay, now the real motherhood can begin. And I can just bond with my child as opposed to just having to try to take her to every doctor's, office and therapist and everything at the time to try to fix what was going on. She wasn't developing normally, but I just thought that was because she wasn't really able to access the outside world yet because she was so consumed with her discomfort. So, anyway, fast forward, she's 2 now and she has words and she's talking. She just seems like still sort of disconnected. She's not really having any back and forth conversations. It's just like expressive language. Ultimately, one of my sisters who had kids of her own at the time was like, Susanna, you really need to, something's going on here. And, that mama gut was very much activated. Like immediately, I was like, she's so right. And so that eventually led to an autism spectrum diagnosis, lots and lots and lots of hours of therapies, therapeutic support. When she was 5 or 6, she was, officially diagnosed with ADHD. And now my darling daughter is nearly 18 years old and also has, sort of generalized anxiety disorder that sort of rules the roost in our household these days. For her as a teenager in high school, sort of navigating this world that wasn't necessarily cut out and made for her specifically. So that's what we're doing. And, maybe 10 years ago, I was like, already helping other families navigate, finding resources, finding, little snippets of joy in the trenches. And I, was like, I was also, going through a divorce at the time. And I was thinking, this is actually something that I can do for a living, helping other families and really specifically moms who come to me the most in trying to organize and manage and find balance and joy in their own lives, even as we are, these extreme caregivers that we maybe thought we weren't going to be and have a different life than we thought. So here we are. So my life is my work and my work is my life. And I feel like I teach what I most need to learn. And I'm constantly learning. It is such a journey and it's never ending. It's never ending.
It's never ending. I agree. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story and that journey with us. And I'm sure even though, like you said, it wasn't exactly as you envisioned, you seem like the type of person that has been able to find the joy and gratitude in this entire experience to date and continues to do that. And I know you help other people find that joy, as you said. So, can you expand on that a bit for us?
Yes, I skipped over a very sort of big, important part, which was I suffered from severe postpartum anxiety and depression after Arizona was born. And it really was, for me, I'm sure, a mix of hormones, definitely, but also just circumstantially. Arizona was crying every day, all day. She was so uncomfortable. And I felt like such a failure as a mom, not being able to comfort my child. And so it almost took me out, Marissa. Like I literally was like, I can't access this. I'm so moving through life as a zombie. And so A couple of years in, after Arizona was diagnosed, it was almost like I fell to my knees one day, literally fell to my knees. And I was like, God, universe, whoever is out there to assist me and help me here in this lifetime, whoever created me, God, my God, please help me. I don't want to be miserable. I want to, I want to find happiness and joy. I want to laugh again. I know my daughter's crying all day, but I don't want to cry all day with her, and something shifted within me, and I just had this just external, activation, I think, because I was, again, like, just saying out loud, I don't want to be unhappy. And in fact, I don't want to just be surviving, because that's how it felt. I was like, every day was just like, I was looking at the clock like 2,700 times a day. I was like, when is bedtime? When is bedtime? When is bedtime? So it really started with that. And when everything to me is just energy and intention. So when you are saying out loud, I want a different life, I want to access joy, I want to find joy, I believe that what you seek is also seeking you at the same time. So that activation is so palpable. It's so real. And I just felt like, okay, I'm surrendering. I'm not giving up, right? But I'm surrendering to the flow of whatever is meant for me. And I found out, very early on that absolutely everything, every circumstance, everything is for me. And so that shift was, transformational, epiphanous. I just was like, okay, this is my forever quest. Um, and trust me, there are still also some very dark days. This past weekend was really challenging with Arizona's mental health struggles. And I still have this desire of, like, okay, this beautiful, happy, fulfilling, satisfying, joyful life is available to me, for sure. It's available to absolutely everyone on this planet, for certain.
Oh, I had chills when you were saying that story because I think we've all been there, no matter what circumstance we're facing, where we just feel like a breakdown is where we're at. And I have this mentor who said these words to me once that I will forever repeat to myself, that breakdowns are breakthroughs. And sometimes you have to hit that rock bottom literally on your knees, as you said, and ask for what you need, like surrender to what's happening, just really put out there what you are open and willing to receive. And I think sometimes we're like, well, duh, of course I want to be happy. Of course I want to experience joy, but we don't realize we're actually the ones getting in our own way.
Yes, 100%. Yes,
Yeah.
every
So
time.
what I heard, like my takeaway from that was this is a real intentional choice. And as hard as our circumstances can be, and you had a really challenging situation during that season. I mean, you still do, but especially during that time, you made a conscious choice that you wanted to feel joy and you were going to do and receive and act in a way that was going to allow that for you. And like, it's literally, you're a decision away from it, is what I heard you say.
Yes. And by the way, it's something that I ask myself, or, sort of set an intention for, not only every morning, but multiple times throughout the day. And I have to ask myself, what does this soul care, what does self care, true self care look like for me today? What is that going to look like for me today? My schedule is packed, right? I raised my daughter largely on my own. She has a phenomenal father, but she lives with me mostly full time. And I work, right? So it's the juggle, like you said in the very beginning. But every day, and it might look different every day, it's like, how can I, you know, actualize, realize, experience a little piece of joy for myself today. And it could be that I have some delicious leftovers that I'm going to make for lunch, and I'm actually going to sit down and not look at my computer for 30 minutes, right? Um, So that's, again, it is definitely a conscious choice for us and available to us. Always. Yes. No matter what.
Hmm. Yes, agreed. Let's go back to that period. Like you said, you were suffering from postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. I think you said, I'm not sure if it was both, but what can you share with other moms who are going through that challenge? And as a follow up question to this, too, do you feel like when you were able to break through during that time, you were still in that period or had that passed for you?
No, so I still feel like I'm in that period. First of all, Melissa, like we are forever postpartum. That's just a fact, right? So I definitely, it was just again, it was both. By the way, it was both postpartum anxiety and depression. It started off as anxiety and then quickly moved to depression because for me, my big symptom was that I could not fall asleep. So I was so anxious. I was so nervous. I was so worried. And so laid awake all night long. And after 2 weeks of not sleeping 1 minute, I was like bona fide crazy. So the advice that I would give to others is, I mean, hindsight, right? Is, I am a type of person who is very capable. Type A, like I can figure things out. If I want to get into a good university, I'm going to really study hard and get into a university that I want to go to. If I want to get that job, I'm going to get that job. If I want to get a promotion, I'm going to get that promotion. So I feel very much like I don't need anybody's help. I can do it. I have the skills. But that was not the case with motherhood. And I was so afraid to ask for help. I was so afraid to be vulnerable about my feelings and my scary thoughts and these intrusive things that were taking over my brain at the time. I couldn't even ask my husband for help. I didn't want to bother him. Like he needed to be working. And finally, one day I called a girlfriend that I knew had suffered from anxiety in the past, and I only knew that because she shared it with me in confidence years prior when she had her son. And I was like, I called her immediately and I was like, I need help. And as soon as I said that, as soon as those words left my mouth, I'm telling you, everything is so activating when you say things out loud. She came over right away with her son, who was, 3 or 4 at the time. And she was like, honey, she's like, you need to call Dr. So and so because she was so helpful to me. By the way, my OBGYNs were not helpful for me, didn't even really believe me. They were like, oh, you just need to sleep. I'm like, okay, yes, but I can't. You know what I mean? I'll take some sleeping pills. I'd never taken sleeping pills in my entire life. It was a very frustrating experience. So I asked for help. And when I asked for her help and she came over, she walked in the door. I actually called my husband, who was doing some big production thing somewhere. It was a very important thing that he was doing, right? And I called him and I said, can you come home? Can you come home? I feel like I want to jump off the roof. I was so jittery out of my skin. And he walked through the door. And so, again, at that time, I have my girlfriend there. My husband walks through the door. And I was like, okay, okay, here's a little team. There's a little team here. So let's just start here. And then ultimately, I called my mom and, one of my sisters who was already a mom, and they just rallied around me. And that was unexpected. The way that I grew up was very much like everyone figure it out yourselves. And so I will say that just being able to tap into your most vulnerable self, there is someone out there who you can reach out to that will be able to get the ball rolling to find you the help that you need and deserve and that is available to you. It's a scary, scary time. It is not uncommon. So that is my tiny little piece of advice. And I wish I did it more back then, but that's another lesson that I had to learn. So yeah.
Hindsight is always 2020. I think, especially our first experience in motherhood, I think we're all just learning on the fly, you know?
Oh,
So,
yes. And you have four, right? So I think
yes,
you, right.
but
And then everyone is different, right? So it's like, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, my parents had five and we're all so different with so many different needs, and unmet needs and personalities. And anyway, Arizona ended up being my only because I knew that I couldn't, I had to shift my vision for motherhood so many times, you know,
I bet.
and to know that, having one was enough for me. That's okay. It's enough. You're enough, Susanna. You are still a worthy mother, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So many moms struggle with that worthiness piece. That could be a whole nother episode for us,
I know.
Susann. So I'm curious, what do you think was or has been the biggest lesson in parenting Arizona?
Oh, well, I mean, certainly having to be flexible and in flow, that word I was using before, surrender. I am not in control. I might think that I am. And ultimately, I'm really not. And what I was also saying before, which was, every circumstance, every situation, I believe is for us, for our growth, for our transformation, for our learning. I also, have felt like Arizona has been a very, very big teacher for me in that we've had to have this parallel journey. I had to come to terms with this child that was different than the child and children that I thought I was going to have, and to be able to honor her for her wholeness and her completeness, right? So I look at her and I'm like, wow, you are just exactly as you are, right? She just presents exactly as she is, like whatever is on her mind or her heart, it just so vulnerably and unfiltered just comes out, And to me, she is a perfectly intact soul. But I had to get to that sort of realization. I felt like there were so many different therapists and professionals along the way that were, maybe they weren't saying this specifically, but I just felt like you're just really trying to give me tools to fix my daughter, and that just never landed very well with me. And so honoring her for exactly who she is and trying to lean into her world as much as possible has really been so healing for me to do the same for myself in terms of realizing that I'm not broken and I don't need to be fixed. Even if I'm a hot mess most of the time, um, which is really how I feel most of the time. And to just again have those intentions every day, like I just want to have this open, thriving relationship with my daughter, even if it looks bumpy and messy and uncomfortable, feels uncomfortable most of the time. So yeah, I just leaning in, we are all whole and complete and perfect, exactly as we are.
That is so beautiful. And I think we often forget when we're parenting our kids, we're kind of reparenting ourselves during that season. There's
Yes.
so much that comes up for us that's triggered, and so much, like past trauma we're maybe experiencing, and so much healing that needs to happen. And I mean, you just don't know until you're in it. And I think the best thing you can do is recognize it and not suppress it during that
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So you wrote a memoir slash guidebook. Tell us a little bit about that, who it's for. And yeah, I'd love to know.
So, yeah, so I've been working on this memoir actually for 10 years. When Arizona was about 6 or 7, I just started writing. Well, first of all, I've been a writer pretty much my whole life. I have journals upon journals upon journals. It's always been a very cathartic experience for me, the practice of writing and expressing myself on a page. And so I wanted to write out my story because when Arizona was first diagnosed with autism, I did not know one other family with a child with autism, not one. And I felt very isolated. I felt very alone and in the dark. And we're here in Los Angeles. There's a lot of resources and support here, and I still felt very alone. And so I just struggled with trying to navigate this world on my own. So much so that I wanted to create, I wanted to share my story, to hopefully incite some hope in other moms. And I also wanted to share some practical hints and tips that I learned along the way that were so impactful, in my journey with Arizona early on. And so I wanted to be a little, lighthouse for some moms and share my story in a sort of raw and vulnerable way. And, this took me a long time to publish, but it's because it took on so many different iterations. Originally, I just dumped the kitchen sink, like put everything in there. It was like 300 pages. And then over time, and especially as Arizona got older, she was like, I don't really want you to be telling all the details about my life. And I honored that, even as it is my story. I honored that. And so, as a compromise, she wrote the foreword of what she wants other, families or anyone who's the readers to know. She wrote that. And she also came up with the title because that was part of her foreword. That's what she wants people to know about her life, that your true self is enough. And so, um, you know, this is, the iteration that works right now for us. And it's something that I embrace, Arizona embraces. And it has already been such a lifeline for parents in terms of just me receiving the feedback from a lot of moms and dads who have been very touched by my story. And so that really was my wish, and it's happening. So it's just, if someone, if people can feel just a little bit less alone, we all have different journeys. This is not like, here's exactly what to do. But here are some suggestions, and certainly I spend a lot of time talking about just leaning into our own ability to access joy and find fulfillment in our own lives too, as parents.
I love that. It sounds like a really incredible read and amazing resource. So thank you for putting it out in the world.
Yeah. I'm so happy I finally did it. I actually published it on my 50th birthday, January 3rd, 2024. That was to me like a little
Beautiful.
milestone. I was like, yay. So yeah, I'm so grateful that it's out there.
Love it. Yeah. I love setting goals like that with deadlines of like important dates. That's
Yes.
so like I told myself a few years ago when I left the corporate world into entrepreneurship full time and took that leap, I was going to put my notice in before my next birthday, and like that's really like held me accountable,
Yes.
for doing it.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of
Absolutely.
power in setting dates and especially milestone dates like that. So I love that.
Yes.
All
I
right.
was so proud. I felt so proud.
Yes, absolutely. As you should feel in doing such a major, putting something major like that out into the world. All right, Susanna. Well, I know we could chit chat a lot longer about this incredible and important topic, but we are going to head over now to our lightning round. I'm going to ask you some fun, random, kind of personal questions. Are you ready?
Yes. Ready, ready, ready. Yes.
All right. All right. Tell us, if you could eat one food for the rest of your life,
Oh
what would
gosh.
it be and why? Calories don't count.
Oh, calories don't count. Okay. Well, then I would say, so I'm mixed Taiwanese. So I would say dumplings.
Good
And
choice.
could that be like any kind of dumpling? Like sometimes veggie dumplings, sometimes crab? Okay.
Totally.
Yes. So
Yes.
dumplings. Dumplings.
What if they made a movie about your life? Who would you want to play you?
Uh, well, I would be so honored if maybe like, I don't know, Jessica Alba. I just think she's so beautiful and amazing. I'm not saying that, uh, you know, because I'm so beautiful and amazing. I just think that, especially as I've followed her into her journey with motherhood, I just so adore her commitment to raising
Yes.
the bar for all mothers around, supporting other mothers.
Okay, two things. You are beautiful and amazing. And yes, I see the resemblance there. So totally she could play you. Absolutely.
Yay, Jessica, call us.
What is your go to get it done song? Really
Oh my
motivates you.
gosh. Okay, so I there's this song by this artist named Machel Montano. And he's a soca artist. So think Trinidad, think of Caribbean sort of Afrobeat music. But there's this song that he wrote and plays and performs called Like a Boss. So it's just like
Mm.
really uplifting, like a boss. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like when I was um, reading about your podcast, Mama Work It, I was just thinking, oh, that's like a boss, you know? And so I will turn that up, and Arizona and I will both be jumping around and dancing in the house.
Love it. Love it. Love
Together.
a good dance party.
Yes,
Absolutely.
so good.
All right. Last question. Very important one. Are you ready? Nail salon, hair salon, or spa? What if you could only pick one to visit for the rest of your life? What would it be and why?
So I was going to say spa because I feel like you can get every treatment there now,
Yeah, the
right?
loophole. Go for it.
Absolutely. So spa all day, every day. Nails are, I love getting my nails done, but it's not so relaxing, you know?
Mm,
Spa all the time,
yeah.
every time.
Bring in
Yes.
that spa energy.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
All right. Well, before we hop off, please tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can get your book, and we will absolutely link all this in today's show notes as well.
Yes. So my book is on Amazon. It's called Your True Self is Enough Lessons Learned on My Journey Parenting a Child with Autism. And everything is also, everything, absolutely everything is on my website, which is my first, middle, and last name.com. I'm going to say it and then I'm going to spell it really quickly. It's Susanna Peace Lovell.com. SUSANNAPEACELOVELL.com. I have an amazing empowerment guide online course for parents. And I also have links to my book. My Instagram is at Mama Peace, MAMAPEACE, and lots of resources on my site and some free downloads too.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Susanna. This has been such a good conversation. And we just so appreciate you sharing your experience, your wisdom, your insight, and those awesome links to access you afterwards.
Thank you, Marissa. I so appreciate this platform.